evening, everyone. We will be starting our session. So cordially, I invite everyone to this successful seventh day of the Faculty Development Program organized by the Press Club Kolkata and St. Xavier's University Kolkata in collaboration with UNICEF West Bengal. Sir, I take immense pleasure in welcoming KG Suresh, sir. Professor KG Suresh is the current Vice Chancellor of Makanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Communication, President of GMEC, Global Media Education Council, Senior Journalist, Columnist, and Communication Specialist. Professor is a New Delhi-based senior journalist, columnist, and a communication specialist. He is currently serving as Vice Chancellor, and he's also an emeritus professor at the APJ Institute of Mass Communication, New Delhi. And earlier, he has served as Director General, Indian Institute of Mass Communication, a media training institution. Senior Consulting Editor with DD News, India's public news broadcaster, editorial consultant with Asianet News Network, and he was a chief political correspondent with Press Trust of India and group media advisor to Dharma Bharat Enterprises. Professor Suresh is a member of the Academic Council of Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He's also with the Society of Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute, Kolkata. He's in the research committee of Indian Council of Social Science Research. He's an advisory council for the Delhi School of Journalism, University of Delhi, an academic council in Central University of Himachal Pradesh, and the school board of Abhanindranath Tagore School of Creative Arts and Communication Studies, Assam University. He's a member of the Award Selection Committee of the National Council for Science and Technology Communication, Department of Science and Technology. Sir, it is an immense pleasure to have you here with us, and I am indebted and I convey my gratitude for this time and for this talk that we all are looking forward to. Before I pass on the floor to you, I would request the President of Press Club Kolkata, Sir Snehashish Sursa, please to give a small introduction and address the gathering today.
Thank you very much, Sitara ma'am. It is my immense pleasure to personally welcome and say pranam to KG Suresh sir. Sir is not only the Honorable Vice Chancellor of one of the largest universities of journalism and mass communication. One needs to see the facility of a university dedicated to mass communication and journalism, various aspects of it. Sir has been a mentor to many of us, whether he's a vice chancellor of a university or he's the director general of a nationally reputed media institution, or whether he is in Doordarshan News or in PTI or wherever he is. We feel that warmth and comfort in asking some advice from him, and he's always there with the advice. Sir has inaugurated the first FDP done on during the COVID on crisis communication. Sir has spoken in the second FDP of the UNICEF Press Club project. The first one was also under partnership of UNICEF, and the second one has also been in the FDPs, and the third one. We have not kept a valedictory address tomorrow because we want to term Professor KG Suresh sir's address as a valedictory address. We would have loved sir to have in our midst, but you have seen that how busy he is. But his commitment is there for the cause of journalism, for the cause of development, for the cause of developing pedagogy. That is why he always is with us. There is no direct flight between Bhopal and Kolkata. So we may consider that as an excuse that sir is not with us here physically. But sir is always with us. And sir, we are really honored and blessed by your presence, and we are really glad. Sir, this is a group of young faculty members of various universities, colleges, either in substantive posts or in here there is something called SAC, state aided posts, or as a guest faculty. At this level, we all are learners. And why we are learning? We are learning to teach better. And you are a trainer of the trainers, and that's why you are with us, sir. It is my duty to welcome you. And if I would have not joined and done so, I would have failed in this duty.
Thank you so much, Snehashi sir. So may I request Professor K.G. Suresh sir to take over the virtual floor, please.
Thank you so much, Sitara. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, perfectly.
My apologies because I am using a very temporary facility because just now I'm returning after a meeting with the Honorable Vice President of India. He had called me to discuss media and media education. And because the time was already running out, I have taken refuge in the house of a friend who has provided me with a table and chair to address this session because I had no time to go back home. And I've come to Delhi so I said that I should not miss even one moment of being with my fraternity. And what a pleasure meeting all my old friends online. I mean, Snehashi has been, has been a friend for such a long time. And we were colleagues in Doordarshan, and subsequently at IIMC, he's one of the most prominent visiting faculties at IIMC Dhenkanal. And he took pains. He had come for a conference at Indore, and he took pains to come all the way to Bhopal because he said that I want to see how India's first journalism university looks like. That is the kind of passion he has. And, he came and spent quality time with our university, interacted with our faculty. And of course, Sucharita, what a pleasure meeting you. I mean, we have worked together on so many projects. I was talking to Rakesh Goswami in the morning, who is currently regional director at IIMC Jammu. And we were remembering, how we had those scholarships. And, remember Rakesh was one of our fellowship winners. Tabina also. So, such a pleasure to see our, fellows, our colleagues all over the country. And it's always been a pleasure being with the Kolkata Press Club and St. Xavier's University. And of course, all the, distinguished dignitaries, eminent media educators, and young scholars and faculty and students who are present here. I'm not going to say anything new because I believe that NEP has been discussed ad nauseum over the last couple of years. 2020, it came out and it has been discussed in detail. Coming straight to the topic, because we have a limited, time, we have a time constraint. NEP, if you go through that, 64-page document, the basic draft of it, you won't find anything specific to media education. But within those pages, you will find a lot of things which we can apply and make media education much more enriching, much more enlightening. I would like to focus on these aspects because we are among the first universities in the country to implement the national education policy. We rolled out 8 new courses, 4-year UG programs under the NEP for the first time at the Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism. In fact, we did all the preparations during the COVID. And in the last year, we introduced 7 new programs. And all these 7 programs were, rolled out, and they are hugely successful. And this year we have rolled, because I have started now a Department of Cinema Studies at the Mass Communication University, which is now perhaps the biggest department in terms of offering of courses right from diploma in journalism, film journalism, to PhD programs in cinema studies. Now we have a UG program, 4-year UG program also in cinema studies that we are offering. Now, what I wanted to say is that, so because we were the pioneers in rolling it out in the media sector, we really had to, do a lot of brainstorming. we had no reference point. Today, I feel so happy when I get calls from young faculty members working in different institutions saying that, sir, would you mind if we take your syllabus? I said that, no, this is meant, we are the mother institution. We are, Asia's first and India's largest media university. And our, everything belongs to the entire media fraternity. We would be happy. And you have faculty members from across the country today coming to Bhopal to understand how the NEP is being implemented. So let me share some of my experiences and some thoughts of how NEP we stand to gain from NEP. You see, NEP, we all know, I mean, most of us who have gone through, we are, academic administrators. We know the flexibility part of it, how the lateral entry and exit, how somebody can, what NEP has done to education is that it has, if somebody asks me that how is NEP different from earlier things, I would say that NEP has made education a lifelong process. That's one big thing, one big takeaway, in the sense that, I can be a dropout after 1 year, of course. And, I myself remember, initially when I joined my master's program, I left it just after 1 year because I got a job, and for me the job was more important. And subsequently I had no way to come back. I had to enroll myself again in a PG program to so that 1 year of education, 1 year of learning, 1 year of money, everything was gone. Today, if you complete a 1 year, I mean the first year, you get a certificate in a UG program, a diploma in the second year, a degree in the third year, and a degree with honors in the fourth year. So, I don't lose out. There is an academic credit bank, and, my credit gets transferred and I can pick it up when I want. So so education has been made a lifelong process. The second big thing about NEP is that, we have all been, education so far has been very exclusive domains, in the sense that an engineers had little to do with people from other walks of life. A doctor, a student of medicine would have very little to do with, a student of humanities. So we were all in our own, I may call it cocoons, we were all isolated from each other. The disciplines were isolated. What NEP brings in is interdisciplinarity in the form of, generic electives that we have. And the kind of exposure that the student is getting, he's no more learning only about media. What he's learning about is language, linguistics. He's learning about environment. He's learning about psychology. He or she is learning about, science. There's a whole lot of things, and the same applies otherwise also. For example, what we have done in our, I mean, to give you some inputs, we have signed up MOUs with both the National Cadet Corps and the NSS. Now, NCC and NSS have always been there, but they were part of the extracurricular activities. You never had credits for them. Now, under the NEP, when you are enrolling yourself in the National Cadet Corps or in the National Service scheme, you are getting credit. It may range from 4 credit to 24 credit. It depends on, so from the 3rd semester onwards, we are having these elective programs. And we have been able to, now, what NEP has done is that made education a collaborative process rather than a competitive process. I mean, I will not compete with St. Xavier's University anymore as, I mean, as an institution which is also offering media courses. I'm also offering media courses, so we are competitors. No. On the contrary, I mean, I would look at their strengths. their strengths, because this NEP recognizes and realizes that no single institution has the expertise, in all domains. Every institution has its own domain. So why to reinvent the wheel? So if I need to do a course in, psychology, for example, there are so many psychology courses and so many well-known psychology teachers across the country. I can, kind of have them on board, prepare modules, designed by them, and offer it to my students. So I am no more in a competitive mode. I am in a collaborative mode. For example, in Bhopal, we have a Rajiv Gandhi Technology University. So there VC and I myself, we sat together and we decided that, their forte is engineering. So I said that your engineers, we will teach them mobile journalism, Mojo. And your teachers will teach my students environmental sciences, which is again their domain area. So now my students are getting exposure to environmental sciences, and their students are getting exposure to mobile journalism, because Mojo is something that even an engineer can do. It can be his passion, it can be his hobby, it can be his vocation. You never know. There are so many engineers who are now running, infotech companies. So why can't you do it? So the whole idea is that, this interdisciplinarity is something that is making us, while we are specializing in our domain, it is making us much more inclusive in our approach to education, to life. If I'm confined to my own fraternity, if I'm confined to my own discipline, and if I'm not exposed to what is happening around me, it makes me a very inward looking and exclusivist kind of a person, as against the inclusivity, wherein I am looking at different aspects and dimensions of life. So what NEP does is, and its impact on media education does, is that we are preparing well-rounded human beings, with a very holistic kind of an outlook, rather than a very, very narrow, dimension of life, that, well, this is what life is all about. It's all about only news. It's all about only, the world is seen only through the prism of our discipline. That it breaks, it seeks to break. And that is where, we have been very successful today, when I find, a lot of students and life lessons. Basically life lessons. When I established the School of Modern Media, the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, Dehradun, the first lessons that we taught our students, we brought into the syllabus, was how to learn. How to learn. Because learning is no more the kind of, learning by rote, which we used to do in our childhood. From a, this, it has become much more student-centric, NEP. The focus is on the student. The flexibility is for the student. The interdisciplinarity is for the student. But the success of this NEP is not dependent on any government. The success of the NEP is not dependent on any university. The success of the NEP is not dependent on any vice chancellor. The success of the NEP depends on the teacher, the educator, the media educator. It is he or she who is going to define how successful the NEP implementation is going to be. Now, as I said, NEP has many dimensions. And let me come to some of those dimensions. A very important part of NEP is the emphasis on research. Now, I often ask people when they come for PhD in my university, I ask them a very simple question. I ask them that, do you want to do PhD or do you want to do research? So they look at me and said, sir, what are you asking? I said, yes, I mean it. Because if you're doing it for a job, if you're doing it PhD for your API scores, if you're doing it for that, then sorry, you're not doing genuine research. If you're doing research, I said first you try to understand the meaning of the word research. You have to come out with dimensions which have never been brought before. How is it important? You are finding, how is it important to impact policy making? How it can impact, it can contribute to the discipline. That's more important. It's not about your one more PhD. We have thousands of PhDs being granted. So the entire focus is on qualitative research as against quantitative research. The entire focus is on that. Now, this is what, really excites me no end. The focus on research. At my university, I make it a point to sit from the first PowerPoint presentation to the pre-submission and the viva. Because people tell me, sir, no VCs do it. They only come towards the end of it. I said, by then the damage would have been done. Let me be there right from the beginning so that, the direction is not lost. So it's important. So maybe hundreds of PPT presentations I have sat through. Because the research is because we have been in India teaching learning universities. We have been teaching learning centers. What is it that makes a huge difference between Indian universities and the Western universities? And why is it that we don't find a place in the global rankings? Except very few universities, institutions like IITs and IIMs, we hardly find a place there. It is for the simple reason that we are essentially teaching learning institutions. We are not research oriented at all. The focus has to be on research. Only then they will start counting us among global universities. Then only we will find our place in global rankings. How many industries today come to the universities? Let us forget other disciplines. You and I belong to the media, mass communication discipline. How many industries, the television industry, the digital media, you look at any media for that matter, how many of them come to your university and my university and approach us when they are preparing their policy, when they are preparing their, the rules of the game? Have they ever considered us think tanks? Sorry. I'm sorry. It doesn't happen. On the contrary, they keep blaming us that we are not producing quality, students anywhere. Even when I was Director General at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, I would face criticism even from, media owners who would say that, what is the kind of products who are coming from your institutions and universities? There's a total disconnect between them and us. What I wanted to know is that, can we become think tanks for the industry? The way industries go to, say, Columbia University, the way industry go to a Harvard University, to know what can be followed, what are the ideas that we need to take. Today, hardly any industries come to our universities. Our universities should be think tanks. So I remember when I was heading IMC, somebody asked me that, sir, do you want, IMC to become the National Communication University of India like the National Communication University in China? I said, no. I said, I want IIMC to be the national communication think tank of India. Can I generate ideas which can revolutionize the media industry? And that can only come through hardcore research, nothing but hardcore research. Today, look at the kind of research that is happening in media. I'm sorry, I have spent decades in the media. I've seen it all, from a rookie sub-editor trainee to the head of news channel. I have worked. And I have seen it happening that industry hardly, they hardly do any research. You look at any transnational copy, I'm sure most of you come from some or the other media background. Look at the kind of copy that come from a transnational wire service. You will find that those copies, they do research. I mean, I remember, I'll give you an instance. There is this, Baghlihar Dam controversy between India and Pakistan. So I remember a copy which said that secretary level talks are going to take place between India and Pakistan to discuss the contentious Baghlihar issue. Secretary so-and-so, Secretary so-and-so, they will meet in New Delhi or Islamabad to discuss this issue. And this is the first step in so-and-so. That's it. God's sake, tell me, where the hell is this Baghlihar? And what is the issue all about? This is basic research which needs to be done. But we take it for granted that our readers know it all. But they, in every copy related to India, Pakistan, you go through a Reuters copy, you go through a AP copy, you go through an AFP copy. It says that these two nations were partitioned in 1947. These two nations have fought 3 wars so far, and they have a very hot and cold relationships between them. Now, this is mandatory. Backgrounding is so essential. But when it comes to media research, I need to understand. When I was at IIMC, we did this seminal research project. At that time, Professor Jethwani was there, Professor Geeta Mamzai was there. And we did this ICSSR supported project on the status of women in media in South Asia. It's a seminal work. We did a project on the impact of the Jago Grahak Jago. It was a Ministry of Consumer Affairs project. On how much has it impacted consumer behavior across the country. Now, these are researches which can change campaigns, which can change the rules. Are we doing that kind of research in our institutions? Or are we just talking about research means PhD? NEP envisages setting up of a NRF, the National Research Foundation. As a research council member of the Indian Council of Social Sciences Research, for the first time after I joined there, we have been giving doctoral fellowships, postdoctoral fellowships to a lot of media students and media studies. Earlier, they were very reluctant about media studies. But now they are giving a lot of support, and the projects run in several lakhs. They are being given. How many of us are taking advantage of that? How many of us are, doing something seminal, doing something that can be a reference point, that would be cited? That is the quality of research that needs to be, and that is the emphasis on research in this, NEP, which I believe is of immense relevance to media education. So we need to take up that. What are the 2 critical aspects of Sitara? I believe I still have time. 10
Yes, sir.
minutes?
Yes, sir, you
minutes?
do have.
I have.
Please go ahead. Yes.
Because once I start speaking, it's very difficult to stop. So now, one is critical thinking. critical thinking is at the core of the NEP. And exactly that is what we teach. Asking questions. I always say, when we celebrate this Teachers' Day and all that thing, that, a good teacher is not somebody who answers all questions. That even Wikipedia does. I said that a good teacher is somebody who encourages students to ask the right kind of questions. We should be able to inculcate the quality of asking good, well-researched questions. Critical thinking is not just about, asking any question. No. The question should be well-researched. Then you ask, not any question. Critical thinking is about creating a questioning mind. You see, so many people have sat under an apple tree for ages. But it was only the questioning mind of Newton which prompted him to ask the question that why is the apple falling down and not going up? No, it's always because we are generally trained to accept things as they are. To do that out-of-box thinking. Why is it like that? Why it cannot be like this? We have all created a generation of status quos. That is the problem. What the education policy seeks to do is to urge people to come out of their silos, to come out and, look for, solutions. And I will come to that. The problem is that it has become a fashion to say everywhere that, come on, look at out-of-box thinking. The big question is, out-of-box is fine, but what do you do with the box? The problem is that we are all in the box. And when we go out of the box, the problem doesn't get solved. What do you do with the box? If the bus is going in the wrong direction, I cannot be an outsider and change the direction of the bus. I have to be inside the bus to facilitate changing the direction of the bus, either by persuading the driver or capturing the driver's seat, whichever. But standing outside the bus, I won't be able to do anything except that I can get crushed by the bus. And that is what we need to do. And that leads us to the second very important aspect of the national education policy, and that is problem solving. We have so far been in the 70 years of our existence. We have all been talking about problems. We all know there are problems. Art films have been made. Slumdog Millionaire has been made. So many writings have been made. Over the years, so many novels have been written, articles have been written, research has been. But has it solved the problem? What was the issue in the 1952 election continues to be the issue even today. So where do we stand? Now what is the solution? Can I look at solutions rather than the problems? So the whole idea is that when I'm talking about problem solving, I'm also talking about solutions journalism, which is that there are, and these solutions are not by the governments of the day, but solutions which emerge from the people. The people, they create their own solution. It is not sitting in Delhi or Kolkata that you solve the problems. It is the people in the villages, people in the suburbs, the people in the slums who have the solutions, and we need to instill in them the courage to come out with solutions. Because the problems, wherever the problems are there, the solutions are also there. And only they know it better. And that is about decentralization and democratization. So it has to be, instead of a top-down approach, it has to be a bottom-upwards approach. So that's about problem solving. Now, again, coming back to NEP, the focus on, Indian traditional knowledge, traditional Indian, understanding of every subject. We have been, as a result of the Macaulay model of education, we have been talking only about, as if all the good things came from West, and we have been very contemptuously looking at our own traditional systems. Not that all of them are great. I know that we should not be looking at, looking at everything in the hoary past as something glorious. There have been inglorious chapters also in our history, but there have been glorious chapters which we have been ignoring. We have had a lot of achievements. Our great forefathers, they had great minds. Their metallurgy, their understanding of arithmetic, their understanding of algebra, geometry, their understanding of space. These are all things which we need to give it a, that Indian dimension. Because without understanding the historical perspective, we cannot borrow history from abroad. We had a long legacy of, this was the country where people used to come from the world over, whether it is Nalanda, whether it is Takshashila, whether it is Vikramashila. So obviously, people did not come for anything, they came for knowledge. It is our people who took, whether it is Buddhism or spirituality to the rest of the world, to Southeast Asia, to China. So obviously, we had a lot to give. So what we need to understand is that even as we, look at the future, we also need to make our students aware of what was the work done in the past, so that we are not, blindly aping the West. We understand our own legacy, so that we can, because they are relevant to our own ground realities, they are relevant to our own people, how they are relatable to our own people. That we need to understand. For example, even in communication studies, the communication studies, unlike the adversarial models of the West, you had a model in India which talked about how the audience felt the same manner in which, the characters used to feel. So if a character on a stage is in pain, in anguish. The audience would feel the same kind of a pain, anguish. And our traditional forms of theater, you could find them in that. So the bhavas, the rasas, all spoke about that. The basic understanding of the Natya Shastra will give you an idea about what was our concept of communication. And we had an inquisitive mind. Whether if you look at the scriptures or you look at the what we call as mythologies, or what you look at the classics, there have always been a questioning process in our entire historical journey. Whether it is, the conversation between, Adi Shankara and Mandana Mishra, or the conversation between Nachiketa and Yama, the conversation between Yudhishthir, the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. You find this entire historical process. It is all about questions and answers. The entire Bhagavad Gita is about questions and answers. So the questioning mind has always been there. The critical thinking has always been there. You'll find it throughout. Without reference to these about our understanding of our historical past, I think that without it does not relate to the ordinary. So that's about the Indian tradition. The value systems. Today, globally, it is acknowledged, globally, the importance of ethics, the importance of, and that is what has been emphasized in the NEP also. And because of that lack of ethics, the kind of frauds, the kind of scams, the kind of scandals that have taken place is a reflection of that absence of ethics in every walk of life. And media has been no exception. So the importance of ethics and values, it has been given. The importance of language, and particularly the mother tongue, in the national education policy is of relevant to media education. If you go by the statistics, let us go scientifically. Look at the statistics. Majority of Indian people wish to read, watch, and listen to content in their own specific language, and that is where the language is the market. You see majority of investments today happening in the language market, in the language media. Whether it is the Indian language channels, the Indian language digital platforms, they are happening. That's the reality. How can we ignore it? Language plays an important part in that. Because I was somebody who, promoted language journalism during my tenure as IMC DG. I started Marathi journalism from Maharashtra. I started, Malayalam journalism from Kerala. And I was about to start, I had already had a lot of discussions with Snehasis with regard to Bangla journalism from the Dhenkanal Eastern Regional Campus in Dhenkanal. Somehow, by the time it was about to take shape, my tenure ended. Otherwise, by now we would have had the Bangla journalism program in place. We have discussed ad nauseum about it. Remember, Snehasis? Now, we can do all that, because
yes, sir, but it's not going to happen now. This I understand.
I don't know. But yes, it did not happen. It was my dream project. Now, the whole idea is that because today, Snehasis, I can tell you that experiment has been hugely successful. Today the most, if I may use that term, the most popular course
in India lies with the language journalism, sir.
The most popular course,
vernacular journalism is language journalism.
The most
the
popular
growth of
course
newspaper is because of language journalism.
Yes, Amravati and Kottayam campuses are surviving because of language journalism programs. I upgraded even the Urdu journalism from a certificate program to a full-fledged postgraduate diploma program. So language journalism is the future. So this NEP also focuses on language, the importance of language. How can we be oblivious of that? My students need not just be multitaskers, they will have to be multilinguistic also. Their language skills have to be improved. My institution is a predominantly Hindi, speaking institution, where majority of the students I have, they come from the Hindi belt. But I keep telling them, don't have an animosity towards the English language, because don't look at it as a language. It is a skill that you need to imbibe if you need to make a global impact. So language is another aspect of the NEP, which is of huge importance. I believe that, I've taken more than my share of the time. I was given about 40 minutes to speak. And I think that I want to stick to my schedule, so that if there are some questions, I can also take it. And once again, a lot of thanks to the Press Club and to St. Xavier's University, and of course, UNICEF, for inviting me to share my thoughts with my, fraternity. And thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
So it was a pleasure, I should say, sir. And I think I'm more tempted to say the word mind-boggling. So because it has been a very long time that we get stuck as faculties, we get stuck into an institutional concept of not questioning or not receiving questions. Your emphasis on critical thinking, questioning, I think it was like slapping us back and bringing us back to the reality, one. Second, your whole talk on critical thinking, it just reminded me of Hannah Arendt saying, which says, there is no dangerous thoughts. The act of thinking itself is dangerous. So yeah, I think it is the most critically essential talk of the heart that we got to listen from you. And on that note, I open the floor for questions, and I see some hands raised. May I request Dr. Shomat Sen, sir, from St. Xavier's University, to please pose his question.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. And thank you, Sitara. Sir, in your insightful lecture, I have one observation to share with you. As there has been discussion on national education policy in several platforms, I have found it is being interpreted as per political discourse in different states other than the states ruled by the political party akin to the center. What is my observation in that? Few states are taking all the positive sides from National Education Policy 2020 and they are about to implement it. For example, Assam is a very bright example in front of us, who is going to implement this National Education Policy very soon. At the same time, being a resident of West Bengal, which is highly critical about the central government policies in its approaches, they are not highlighting the positive sides of the National Education Policy 2020, as well as the leading media houses of the state, taking the names of Anandabajar Patrika, Telegraph, and even to some extent Bengali daily, language daily like Bortoman, also are not very much positive in its stand towards national education policy. As they are the opinion framer in front of the Bengali speaking population, it is not leaving any kind of positive impact regarding national education policy, despite National Education Policy 2020 has huge volume of positive sides. How, as a media educator, we can promote this kind of positive things among the people?
Thank you, Shamak, for that question. But let me remind you, Shamak, that when the NEP was announced, this was one policy that the opposition generally has a very critical view of the government on a whole range of issues, ranging from defense to home to all aspects, internal security to finance to economics and everything. But NEP is one thing. If you search even the entire internet, you will hardly find any credible criticism of the NEP, because of the reason that the NEP came out as a result of almost 6 years of deliberations, across the country, at every district level, in every university. It was widely discussed, and all, stakeholders were part of it. I myself was part of so many deliberations, So NEP specifically has not been targeted even by the opposition, if you look at it, unlike many other policies of the, central government. That's number one. The criticism, if any, has been that it is too idealistic to be implemented. Is it possible? Is it feasible? Is it practical to implement it? That has been the criticism. It has tried to bring in so many aspects, all views together, like the Indian Constitution, that we bring in the Irish Constitution, we brought the American Constitution, the British conventions, everything has been put together. Similarly, this has put in all ideas together. That is it practical to implement it was the only credible question which was asked. But yes, politics is politics. Politics being politics, there is always, whether there may not be a vehement opposition to it, but the implementation may be tardy in many states. I agree with that. But it is it is an open document. Let us study it, and let us talk about it. As I told you, the success of the NEP will depend on each one of us as teachers. I was certainly, I would say that was excited by the provisions of the NEP. Because till now, we had all these talk about independently, value education. They were all isolated discussions. Here was an approach to bring all those things under one umbrella. And I felt that there is some hope. You see, there is always scope for improvement. This is not the final word. I would say that NEP is an evolving document. Even today, many aspects of NEP has not been finalized by the University Grants Commission or the Ministry of Education. The very fact that, they decided to rename the HRD ministry as the Ministry of Education puts back the emphasis on education rather than human resource development. The very fact that it speaks of a 6% investment annual allocation, GDP allocation to education itself, when it comes through, is something to be, wait and watch. But the fact that the vision talks about a 6% allocation is something that is encouraging. So I think that it depends on each one of us to study it in detail. I'm not saying that in the implementation there are shortcomings, lacunae. It happens. But I think by and large, if you look at it, it is a document worth, understanding and worth implementing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this insightful answer as well to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir. Do we have more questions from the participants? Okay, so I take that as a note to come to a conclusion, sir. I should say, representing St. Xavier's University and UNICEF and Press Club of Kolkata, I should thank you from the bottom of my heart for the most charismatic delivery that you have given. And on that note, I would also request Sucharita ma'am from UNICEF to deliver a few words before we finish the session.
Delivering a few words would be nothing than thanking Professor K.G. Suresh. Sir has been very supportive and has encouraged us in the entire journey on development journalism, some of which he already spoke about. We would like to continue to have your guidance and also look at more multiple ways in which we could bring students, faculties, and even young journalists and professionals into reporting on social development issues in a way that it makes for interesting and very strong and appealing news reports. We would definitely like to continue the conversation as we always love to, and we would have liked to have you in person, as Snehashishta already mentioned. And I will still keep my hopes pinned that before we conclude 2022, we may want to be in touch with you and see how we can have you sometime in West Bengal. Having said that, Thank you very much, sir. As usual, even for people who are not directly associated with the education sector, for us, the NEP in a nutshell, it was capsulated to us and presented in a way that, as she said, mind-boggling. So thank you once again, and hope we continue to work together on this mission. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am,
sir.
I would like to just say one word or two words. What do you say? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.